Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. I started middle school in the late 2010s, just as smartphones were becoming ubiquitous. My first phone, given to me before 6th grade, was a budget smartphone with a prepaid plan. It cost $0.05 per minute for calls and per text message sent or received. Sending or receiving photos was even pricier at $0.15 each. My parents allocated $150 annually for this plan, and if I exceeded that amount, I had to cover the rest with my limited birthday and Christmas money. Thankfully, most of my friends were considerate about helping me conserve my balance. They'd call and I'd let it go to voicemail, then immediately call back on our home phone to avoid charges. For most communication, they'd use email or Discord. Things were going smoothly until Alex joined our group in 7th grade. Initially, we found him amusing, but we quickly grew tired of his unpleasant and antisocial behavior. He stirred up drama within our friend group and caused problems with other kids outside our circle. Alex was manipulative and always played the victim when others rightfully called him out on his actions. He knew how to charm adults, making it difficult to exclude him from our group. Alex was the only friend who disregarded my phone situation. He frequently sent me memes via text, despite my repeated requests to use Discord or email instead. Unfortunately, blocking numbers wasn't an option with my prepaid plan, so I was helpless as he spammed my phone. One day, Alex got angry with me for some trivial reason and bombarded my phone with memes. He must have sent over 100 random internet memes via text, continuing until my phone lost service due to a depleted balance. I had lost the remaining $60 in my account as a result. Furious, I confronted Alex the next day at school. "You owe me $60 for what you did," I said, my voice shaking with anger. Alex just smirked and shrugged. "Not my problem, dude. Maybe you should get a better phone plan." I returned home from school fuming and explained the situation to my mom, expecting her to contact Alex's parents and demand compensation. Instead, she said, "Honey, sometimes it's not worth the fight. Let's focus on fixing the problem instead." "But Mom," I protested, "can't we take this to small claims court or something?" She shook her head. "Not all battles are worth fighting. The effort isn't worth $60. Let's go to the carrier's store and see what we can do." At the store, my mom added $75 to my phone balance. The carrier changed my number and, after some insistence from my mom, managed to block Alex's number despite initially claiming it wasn't possible with my plan. "There," my mom said as we left the store. "Problem solved. And maybe this is a good lesson about being careful who you share your number with." I nodded, still feeling uneasy. "I'm just worried about my number getting leaked and other kids spamming it to mess with me." Fortunately, that summer, my parents upgraded to new smartphones and added me to their family plan with unlimited texting. Despite this resolution, I remained bitter about the $60 Alex had essentially stolen from me out of spite. Not long after, there was a major falling out between Alex and the rest of our friend group at the end of the school year. We permanently excluded him from our circle. In 8th grade, he became an outcast, with no one tolerating his behavior anymore. The following year, he changed schools, and we never heard from him again. Fast forward to a few years ago, I was back home for a few months between finishing college and starting a new job across the country. One Saturday morning, I decided to check out some local garage sales. To my surprise, I ended up at Alex's house. I recognized his father, but he didn't seem to recognize me. I guess growing a beard and wearing glasses can really change a person's appearance. I noticed some Pokemon-themed party supplies for sale. When I picked them up, Alex's dad commented, "My son was obsessed with Pokemon his entire childhood. I'm tired of all this stuff taking up space in our house." "These would be perfect for my younger cousin," I replied. "She's really into Pokemon. Do you have any more Pokemon items?" He looked surprised. "People are still into that?" "Well, there are a few boxes in the attic with my son's old stuff." To my amazement, he invited me inside the house, a place I never thought I'd set foot in again. He let me climb up to the attic and bring down several large boxes. The first contained Christmas decorations and miscellaneous items, but I had to suppress my excitement when he opened a box packed with Pokemon video games in their original packaging. I had agreed to come inside hoping for exactly this scenario. I knew Alex had been obsessed with Pokemon. Our friend group liked Pokemon back in the day, even when other kids thought it wasn't cool. But Alex was on a completely different level. He constantly bragged about his Pokemon collection, claiming to have every main series game in its original box and in mint condition, as he always emphasized. I remembered visiting his house once, where he showed off his collection. "Don't touch!" he had yelled when I reached for one of the games. "Nobody's allowed to touch them except me." He had many older Nintendo games in excellent condition, but Pokémon was his pride and joy. There had been a couple of incidents where his mom had accidentally damaged or discarded some of his things, not out of malice, but ignorance of their value. As we continued to open boxes, I realized we had stumbled upon the motherlode. Within the boxes was Alex's prized collection of Pokémon games, all well preserved, along with several Nintendo consoles, hundreds of games, 24 binders full of Pokémon cards, and even a box of many Lego sets with their original packaging, including several vintage Star Wars sets. "How much for all 5 boxes?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Alex's dad thought for a moment. "How about $100 a box, so $400 for all 5? Deal," I said quickly. "I'll take them all." I rushed to an ATM, withdrew the cash, and hurriedly loaded the boxes into my car. As I drove home, I could hardly believe my luck. I knew there could potentially be tens of thousands of dollars worth of collectibles in those boxes. Finally, I felt vindicated for the $60 Alex had taken from me all those years ago. I ended up giving all the items to my aunt, who runs an online collectibles shop. She offered to sell everything individually, insisting on taking only a 15% cut of the profits after fees and taxes, despite my protests that she should take more. We meticulously cataloged every item along with its estimated value. The total for the entire lot came to about $60,000, a poetically fitting number, as it was 1,000 times the value of what Alex had cost me years ago. My aunt managed to sell most of the items before the end of summer. While the final amount was less than $60,000 after fees and her cut, it was still a life-changing sum for me. I was able to pay off my remaining student loans and put a significant down payment on a new car. As I signed the paperwork for my new car, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Karma really does come around, I thought to myself, and sometimes it pays interest. The next one is an entitled People's Story. I never thought I'd be in a situation where I'd have to face down a knife-wielding Karen over a parking spot, but life has a way of throwing curveballs at you when you least expect it. It was a busy Saturday afternoon, and I was helping my sister move into her new apartment. The complex had limited parking, and we'd been circling for what felt like hours trying to find a spot close enough to easily unload her stuff. Finally, we spotted someone pulling out of a space right in front of her building. "Quick, block it while I go around the lot," my sister yelled as she drove off. I hopped out and stood in the empty spot, waving my arms to make sure no one would try to sneak in before my sister could get there. That's when I heard the screech of tires and saw a shiny SUV barreling towards me. The driver slammed on her brakes just inches from where I was standing. A middle-aged woman with a "Can I speak to the manager" haircut jumped out, her face already bright red with anger. "What do you think you're doing?" she screeched. "This is my spot," I tried to explain calmly. "I'm sorry, but my sister is just coming around to park here. We've been waiting for a spot to open up." "I don't care. I saw it first. Now move." She tried to physically push past me into the space. I stood my ground. "Ma'am, please wait. My sister will be here in just a minute." That's when things got scary. The woman's eyes narrowed and she reached into her purse. My heart nearly stopped when I saw her pull out a small pocket knife. "I said move!" she growled, brandishing the knife. I backed up, hands raised. "Whoa! Let's not do anything crazy here. It's just a parking spot." "It's my parking spot," she shouted, waving the knife. "I live here, and I'm not letting some outsiders steal my space." I was trying to figure out how to defuse the situation when I heard my sister's car pull up behind us. Thank God, I thought. But then I saw the look on the Karen's face change from anger to shock. My sister had jumped out of her car holding her taser. Now, I should mention that my sister is a police officer. She wasn't in uniform, but she had her badge clipped to her belt and her taser at the ready. "Drop the knife!" my sister bellowed in her best cop voice. The color drained from Karen's face. She immediately dropped the knife and put her hands up. I wasn't really going to use it," she stammered. "I was just trying to scare him off. My sister wasn't having any of it." "Ma'am, you just threatened someone with a deadly weapon over a parking space. That's a felony. Put your hands behind your back." Karen started to cry. "Please, you don't understand. I've lived here for 15 years. These new people keep taking all the good spots. I was just fed up." "That doesn't give you the right to pull a knife on someone," my sister said as she cuffed the woman. "You're under arrest for aggravated assault." By this point, a small crowd had gathered to watch the drama unfold. Karen was sobbing and begging my sister not to take her to jail. "Please, I have a charity fundraiser to organize next week. I can't have a criminal record." My sister sighed. "Look, I'm going to call this in. Whether you go to jail or not depends on whether my brother here wants to press charges." All eyes turned to me. I have to admit, part of me wanted to see this knife-wielding maniac hauled off to jail, but looking at her pathetic, blubbering face, I felt a twinge of pity. If she agrees to seek anger management counseling, I won't press charges, I said. Karen nodded eagerly. Yes, I'll do it. I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me. Please don't ruin my life over this. My sister uncuffed her, but took down all her information. I'll be following up to make sure you attend those anger management sessions, and if I ever hear about you threatening anyone again, you'll be in handcuffs so fast your head will spin. Understood? Karen nodded meekly and scurried off to her SUV, thoroughly humiliated. As the crowd dispersed, my sister turned to me with a grin. Well, that's one way to make an entrance at my new place. The neighbors will be talking about this for weeks. We shared a laugh as we started unloading her car. I was just glad the situation hadn't escalated further. Who knew parking disputes could get so intense? Over the next few months, we'd occasionally see Karen around the complex. She'd duck her head and hurry past, clearly mortified by her actions that day. My sister said she did complete the anger management course, and there were no further incidents. I learned a valuable lesson that day. Never underestimate how crazy people can get over parking, and I'm certainly glad my sister had my back. Who knows how things might have turned out if she hadn't shown up when she did. In the end, it became a funny story we could tell at family gatherings. Remember that time Karen pulled a knife on me over a parking spot? It always got a big laugh, but in the moment, it was genuinely terrifying. I'm just glad cooler heads prevailed and no one got hurt. So, if you ever find yourself in a heated parking dispute, take a deep breath and remember, it's not worth pulling a knife over. You never know when the person you're threatening might have a sister with a taser and a badge. The next one is a petty revenge story. I went through a pretty rough patch, and during it, a lot of my lifelong friends turned on me and became my biggest haters. After years of silent work and keeping to myself, my career took off. I found the love of my life and moved to an enviable part of the country. I had an opportunity to photograph the Rolling Stones as well as some of my old friends' favorite bands, all big headliners. One day on IG, one of the suggested followers was the older brother of my single biggest hater, and his profile was private. Being cocky at the time, I was like, yeah, I bet he wants to see all my cool stuff too, so I follow him. It gets back to me that this older brother went to my biggest hater and literally pulled out his phone to show him that I had photographed his favorite band and apparently mentioned something about how hot my GF is, and he of course hated it. So now, if any sibling or relative of the haters that I ever knew has a private profile, I follow that crap, so they have to look at my profile and accept or decline in the hopes they will tell their craphead hater relatives about me. Yes, I'm aware this is psychotic, but I believe it fits here. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Happened over a decade ago, before workplace chats were a regular thing. My boss at the time was an old-timer. I'm pretty sure he was past his retirement age. No grudge against that. He was very good at most aspects of his job, just set in his older ways. Often I would have to call a meeting with our colleagues in Japan with him included. For various reasons, he would get upset if I scheduled these without talking to him first about his schedule, even though his calendar showed him as free. He insisted that I have this check-in directly with him in his office. The problem is he wasn't always there. So what I would do was just send him an Outlook meeting invite to just him and him alone for the time I proposed to have this meeting. It was convenient because I was already looking at his availability in Outlook. He could accept if he works, and then I could update the meeting with everyone else needed. He sees this and hollers at me to go to his office. He's a pretty big, loud dude, so everyone in my vicinity hears. He proceeds to ream me out for not doing what he asked. I'm sure he didn't understand that he was the only one on the invite, and he wasn't appearing to decline the meeting in front of anyone. I tried to explain, but then proceeds to say under no circumstance should I book a meeting with him without chatting with him in person. Sure enough, a day or two later, a very important meeting request comes through for that afternoon with some higher-ups, and he's not around for me to talk to as it was later in the day. My manager's number 2, who heard the minor fiasco above, takes me aside and says, I know what he just yelled at you about, but I think you should just book that meeting. He didn't even need to be there. It was just proper for him to attend. Needless to say, I didn't, quoting what boss man said, and that meeting never happened that day. I vaguely remember him losing a few points for not being able to have this meeting, but nothing nuclear. The next one is an entitled people's story. A few Thanksgivings ago, my uncle, mother's brother-in-law, ruined the celebration in a big way. We had extended family over, and a few of the adults were playing card games. My mother was winning, and my drunk, possibly high uncle decided she was cheating somehow. He accused her, she laughed it off. He literally flipped the table they were playing on. It broke a bunch of glasses, and my mom was shoved into the corner with the table on top of her. My uncle BTW is around 6'4" and probably 230 pounds. My older brother, who is 5, 3 and maybe 140 pounds, charges my uncle as soon as he understood what happened. More relatives jump in, but my uncle is the biggest by far. He's very much punching down at everyone trying to stop him. I, for my part, start gathering all my younger siblings, cousins, and nieces, from toddlers to mid-teens, and barricade myself into a room with them. The kids are screaming and crying, but I just have them huddle together to try and comfort each other. I hush them a bit and listen at the door for anything. The next part I didn't see with my own eyes, but apparently my brother was beat down by my uncle. My cousins and father tried to chase my uncle out of the house. They tousled down the hallway and eventually crashed into the door I had barricaded myself and the kids behind, but didn't break it down. Once they got my uncle outside, they locked the screen door to keep him out, maybe try to talk him down. The screen door we have is a metal mesh with metal framing as support. My uncle, however, was not going to let that stop him. He slammed on the door until the screen broke off of the metal bars in one corner. This is supposedly when my dad brought out his machete and chased him off the property. I don't know why my dad had a machete. It was literally still in the packaging before he brought it out for this event. My mom's sister went out to drive around and find her husband, leaving 3 of her children stranded at our house, and of course, the party was obviously over. When the dust settled, my mother had some minor scraps and aches from being pushed over. Our door was broken. My brother's eye was swollen shut, and my father was pissed. This leads into another sequence of events a few weeks later. The oldest daughter of the offending uncle was having her first child and had planned a baby shower at her parents' home. All of my cousins have a really close bond with my mom, as she's always opened our home to them whenever they've needed a place to stay or a place to vent. So my cousin really wanted my mom to be at her baby shower. The only problem was my uncle had never apologized. My mom's sister had even told my mom that no apology was necessary, that she just needed to get over it. My mom's sister also mysteriously had some bruising on her face when she came to talk it over with my mom. She even implied that her husband's reaction was justified and maybe my mom shouldn't have cheated. Which, to be clear, my mom did not cheat. She just doesn't drink or use any substances, so it's easy for her to beat a few drunks at blackjack. Anyways, my mom refused to go. My cousin pleaded with her and was looking for any kind of compromise. My mom gave her 3 options. The uncle is not present at the shower, the uncle apologizes, or she will not be showing up. This very much upset my cousin, to the point she began talking crap to the rest of the family. My younger siblings, who mostly hadn't been informed of the extent of the drama, I'd managed to shield them enough from the actual event, were excited to go to the baby shower. After talking over it with my mom, she decided that I should just go and take my younger siblings with us. My older brother quite obviously didn't want to be involved. My mother thought the drama would cease if she let us show our faces there. That hopefully things would be smoothed over. In a way, she was right. The baby shower was largely uneventful. My uncle basically stayed in his room the entire night. We didn't greet him when he made a brief appearance and then we left. That side of the family wasn't invited to any of the family gatherings we hosted for the next couple of months, well, besides some of my cousins, but then, eventually my mom's sister came around again, and then my uncle came around again. They never apologized, they just showed up less and never stayed at a party for a long time. My family literally forgives anything. Oh, and our screen is still ducking broken. The next one is an entitled parent's story, so I'm not sure where to start, but I'm gonna give few examples of what happened today. These examples happens every day. Today I woke up at 10. After a few minutes of me waking up, my mom get into my room suddenly and said, "Get ready, we are going to a restaurant." I was surprised because this wasn't told to me before, so I was totally not ready. I told her to wait few minutes so I could shower. She insulted me, calling me dumb and lazy. I got out of the shower and quickly make my makeup while she was still shouting at me, talking to herself, etc. I said it was her fault for not telling me earlier, so there is no reason to get mad at me. And of course, she said something to not blame herself for once again saying I should be always ready, and how lazy I was. We get into the car and went on while my dad was driving. She looked so mad and upset. I tried to make her happy by telling her the group of motorcycles. She looked at it for a second and just said, and never talked again. I was quiet for a long while till we came. When we started to eat, I asked my dad few questions about the future job I want to become. My mom suddenly stopped my conversation and told me that how stupid I was, and always in dreams and never reality, when all I wanted was to ask a question. She was always like this, so I finally got mad and said something, but then she started to try to make me guilty, like saying things like, "I raised you all those years, blah blah blah," when in the truth, even if it was not reality, I asked to learn. Then I didn't talk with her or didn't answer to any of her callings. When we got to the car again, she seemed mad as we went somewhere else, a historical place that was close, to look around. When I showed around for everyone to see how pretty and old the houses were around the place, she suddenly said, You will never get a house in future if you keep going like this. Don't even dream. When in reality, I just wanted to show the houses, not claim the fact that maybe I would get a house in the future. Then my dad wanted to show us around more, and we went to a place where the rich people lived. It was all pretty and stuff, and I just said, whoa. And just because I said that, she started again, you will never get a house like this. You are stupid. You will never be able to take care of yourself. And I was so tired because she always does this. Whenever I speak, whenever I say something, she always finds a way to insult me. And that really bothers me because I always dealt with negative emotions for a long time. Now it's gotten worse and worse every time that I don't think I can do anything alone. Like even right now while I'm typing this, she came into my room screaming of how useless I was, how bad I made makeup, how stupid I was. I really had enough. I told her it bothered me. She finds a reason to make me the blame. She never blames herself ever, which bothers me a lot. Please, why is she like this? Psychologist also said her the same thing while I was there. She's too negative, but she also said, no, I am not. I am doing the right thing. She never fixes herself no matter what. She has her sudden mood swings too. It's so confusing, let alone that whenever we go to S family trip, she always looks so annoyed. I ask her why she's not happy, and all she says is, do I have to be happy all the damn time? Well, you don't, but you also have no right to make everyone around you sad when we are clearly all having fun. You can just take a moment and go away and be sad at somewhere else. That's all I wanted to say. Imagine this every day happening. There's not even one day that I remember her being positive. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.